This video is sponsored by Squarespace.
Hello, I'm Jeff. As the contractually obliged your obligations go, this is Bella.
On cue as well. Amazing.
Well done.
And I'm Patrick.
And welcome to the painting phase. Go on then, off you go. Go and get on your couch. Or sit on the floor and stare at me, one or the other.
Perfect.
Oh, what you been up to this week?
What have I been up to this week? I've had quite a nice relaxing weekend. I was like,
Good.
I'm not going to come into the office. I still did, but only for like 5 minutes, and then I left. Playing lots of guitar this week.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Because you've had quite a while off from playing guitar.
Oh,
haven't
like ages. Yeah. So that's been really nice too.
you? So you did Stairway to Heaven, Smoke on the Water.
I did. What did I do? I did all sorts. Like, my musical taste, when electric guitar is concerned, is firmly rooted in like metal. So I kind of went through some of the old Metallica tunes that I used to play, and Iron Maiden, but then some more modern stuff as well, Trivium and so on and so forth.
Right, okay.
Very good fun. How about yourself?
I used to listen to a lot of that. Yeah, apart from getting ill. So yes, anyone that normally says, "Oh, the breathing's a bit heavy on this show," you're normally right, and often it is me, and it's because I'm normally carrying some version of a cold because I have children and they're just walking petri dishes. So today will be sniffs and coughs and what sounds like horrific gaspings for air. So I apologise in advance for those listening through headphones. I'm really sorry. What have I done? Wife's birthday, so comedy. Went to see some comedy, went out for a meal. That was nice. Did a bit of painting this week.
Wonderful.
I'm currently on a mission at the moment because it's not like I haven't got enough to do. I'm on a mission this week to really try and see if I can figure out directional light on the metallic marines I'm painting.
Oh, I mean, this is where, you know, if you want the true direction of light, you're going to have to do non-metallic metal.
Yeah, I know. I'm not doing any of that nonsense. I'm 52, Pat. I haven't got enough time left. Start learning that. I'm in bad shape and I'm old.
Yeah.
I'll be dead before I figure that out.
So would this be true metallic metal?
True metallic metal.
So that is using metallic paints to then do this bit's dark, this bit's light.
Yeah.
Et cetera,
So what
et
I
cetera.
did was I just sprayed it black, poured it next to natural light coming through a window and photographed it.
Yep.
And tried to figure it. And so I'm using one of my favourite colours being Vallejo. Black metal.
Yeah.
Which I do love. It's covered the whole miniature in that, and then I'm going up to gunmetal.
Oh, okay.
From AK, and AK keeps saying that, Vallejo, and then moving into Vallejo's aluminium and so on, and doing some blending between paints to try and get some of that. And then with the gold, I've been using, crossing the streams here with regards ranges, I've been using Scale 75's Decayed Metal as a starter. Then I've been going in with a Vallejo gold. Yeah. And then I've been using, I can't quite remember the name of it, but it's a monument colour, that Pro Acrol colour, so that it's like silver with a hint of gold.
Oh, right. Oh, well, I
can't remember what it's called. It's just
bright gold.
Might be really bright gold, but it's literally almost like a silver. So I've been using that as a final highlight.
Oh. White gold?
That's the fella, white gold. Yeah. Yes, so I've been using that to finish off. So trying to figure it all out a little bit at the moment. I'm always trying to make the commanders look like they pop a bit more, you know.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like I did use some of these on our Dark Angel successors.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, I haven't used Prochrome metallics in a long time, and you can see the cap on this one is completely clean.
Yes.
So that means I've never used it.
Yeah, because the cap never goes back to being completely clean once you open the bottle of Pro Acrol.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. Like is it so interesting? I'm quite used to using my favourite metallics to use are the Vallejo Game Air series.
Yeah.
Just because they just go on so smooth, and the coverage is incredible. Like that, put it on a dry palette, load up your brush, dab it off on a paper towel a little bit, and then go to town.
Yeah, and
it's like perfect every time.
Yeah.
You can still use them for edge highlighting and all that sort of thing. These are so much thicker.
They are. They do need to be thinned.
And I put it on my wet palette, and I was like, oh god, that's really thick and gloopy. And then I thinned it down too much, and I was like, I had a bit of a mare with them actually. I'm not gonna go as far to say that like, I don't like them, they're not very good. They're just different, and
the thing is they do have their own medium as well. So that helps you with PowerWash will do their own metallic medium, which helps you break things down a little bit more as well. So so I've been trying to figure that out. The funny thing is that I've been having enough success with it that when I've been showing people it, they've not been able to see what I've been doing, because then they assume that's just the light hitting the metal. Okay. So I've then had to move out of the light when I'm showing them it, cup me hand round it, and then go, now look, and they go, look, there's no, and they go, oh, and I'm like, turn the miniature, go, look, this side's dark, that side's light. I've done a good enough job of it that people can't tell what I'm talking about. Either, or I've done such a bad job of it, no one can tell what I'm talking about.
Like, have you, if you were trying to explain to a non-miniature painter, like, what you'd done, and you like, that I'm not... it's like, are you wasting your time?
Yes.
If like someone looks at it and they go, I don't know what you mean. Wait, come over here into this really dark corner. Like,
well, this is the problem, because I paint in the barbershop, and people are generally very polite. And if I've got enough minutes between haircuts, I'll carry on painting. And people come in, probably 50% of the people come in and go, "What are you doing?" And I go, "Oh, I'm painting this miniature." And then they'll go, "You've got a lot of different colour metals out." And I'm like, yeah, because I'm doing this thing where it looks like it's being lit from one side, and as I'm saying that, the person looking at me starts to just hear the tune from the Magic Roundabout playing, and just sees my lips moving, and nothing else is going into their brain. So so it's trying to explain it to people who aren't in the hobby is a bit difficult, and because I'm an over-explainer as well, I am then walking into a darkened bit of the shop with the miniature, cupping my hand round and saying something. If you imagine the light was coming from that side, and now we're at a degree, we're now in some level of darkness. I think what will happen is that with every person who comes into the shop who says, "What you painting?" if they go through that, it'll eventually dwindle away where nobody ever asks again.
That's it. Like,
don't bring it up.
To in the nicest possible sense, dumb it down.
Yes.
Just be like, I'm painting a sword.
Yeah, I'm just painting this.
Yeah, got a lot of paints out, Jeff. Yeah, it's a complicated sword. Yeah, fine, done.
But me and my obsession were like,
Well, have you ever heard of true metallic metal? And you'd be like, what, as opposed to imaginary metallic metal? Like, what?
It's such a slippery slope, isn't it?
Yeah. Because I mean, I've never really done anything remotely sort of interesting with metallics, because I generally go base coat, wash, highlight, like a very straightforward sort of way. I have been messing about with what I've been using to shade them a bit more recently, because I've like, I think I'm looking at my metallics that I've done, and I'm like, I don't really like them that much. Like, I want to put a bit more into them. And like I feel like I've been going through my streaking grime phase, as watchers of the channel might know, and I've been kind of doing the metallics, washing them with streaking grime, or like putting like a matte sort of wash on them or something like that, and not really liking the results, because then you just get this weird like dirty grey, like it just looks a bit weird, and then you highlight it again, you're like, okay, that kind of looks like metal now. So I've been going back to using Null Oil a bit and seeing what that's like, and some contrast paints like Thin Down and that kind of thing. So they kind of still maintain the sort of brightness a little bit, but I'm still not mega happy with it. So yeah, maybe I'll try like building it up, that kind of like with gold, like decayed metal and is it elven gold, I think, and sort of mixing them and bringing them up that way, as opposed to to washing them. But
Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform designed for you to stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting out or you're already established, Squarespace makes it easy to create a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything you can think of. Products, content, to time, all in one place. With Fluid Engine, the next generation website design system from Squarespace, it's never been easier to unlock unbreakable creativity. Start with a best-in-class website template and customize every design detail with reimagined drag-and-drop technology for desktop or mobile. Get started with one of Squarespace's professional website templates with designs for every category and use. Then customize your look, update content, and add features to fit your unique needs. You can make any Squarespace template do what you want, so your idea, brand, or business can stand out online. If you want to sell anything online, Squarespace has got you covered. Sell your products on an online store, whether you sell physical, digital, or service products. Squarespace has the tools you need to start selling online. So check out squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to go live, go to squarespace.com/thepaintingphase for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
I mean, yeah, it's just trial and error, isn't it? And seeing what you like. I do really want to try. I want to try non-metallic metal more than I do true metallic.
Oh, right.
So that might be another video. I'm scared of non-metallic metal.
7 videos later, I'm still scared of non-metallic metal.
Yeah. 7 videos later, I've won a golden demon. I mean, no, that's
pure by accident.
Yeah, because everybody knows if you do non-metallic metal, you win a golden demon. That's
how it works. Yes.
Yeah.
So
you have a controller in your hand.
I have a controller in my hand, and
we have a camera on the table here.
Yes,
pointing at something that the viewers can't see.
PowerWash simulator. Have you heard of this?
Vaguely.
My son, younger son, has been on a mission for about 3 or 4 months now to clean vans, houses, pavements, using a pressure hose in a simulation on a PS5.
Okay.
I've mocked it relentlessly. My wife has got angry at the thought that he wants to clean other people's houses but won't clean his own bedroom, to which he's replied, "You won't let me take a power washer up there," which is a good answer. And I've took no real notice of it. And then my interest was sparked when he came to me and said, they're doing a Warhammer 40,000 DLC. I initially laughed. And then it came out. He downloaded it on Friday. And to be fair, it was the grand total of about £6.50.
Okay.
And I've watched him over the weekend cleaning numerous vehicles. And funny enough, if I bring it up, one of the vehicles that he can clean.
Okay, let's cut to monitor cam.
Yeah. If I go into free play. So we've got 4 vehicles currently. We've got a Land Raider, which is... it's Forge Temple Ring of Iron Mars is where the cleaning's going on. I think it's a bit annoying that Space Marines have to lose their vehicle, take it all the way to Mars just to get a wash.
Oh, yeah.
And then bring it back. You go in the middle of a battle and go, that's got really dirty.
Start cleaning a night, and then we can...
Well, we can start cleaning a night. Or we could start, I was going to say, we could go Red Redemptor Dreadnought, and then it looks like it's been you with your going crazy.
Yeah.
You going crazy with your...
removing the streaking grime.
Yeah.
So this is something of interest, I think, with the kind of like a trend at the moment, like Workshop, specifically 40K, is definitely like penetrating into, or like, you know,
normal society.
Yeah, that's it. So outside of the hobby, and like we had Space Marines and Orcs on stamps, fairly recently.
Yeah,
and this is something really interesting that I find. Like licensing at Games Workshop is a relatively small department, but they make millions and millions. I think the last financial year they made 25 million quid on licensing.
They made 25 million quid by saying yes.
And from what I understand, it's a small department.
Yep.
The vast majority of that money will be profit.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
If 3, 4 people might work in said department, you might have 100 grand, 150 grand on wages. And then,
maybe.
And then you've got over 24.5 million profit, which is, obviously incredible. It makes them a lot of money.
I get the impression they may have to sort of say, and this comes from someone whose hair I cut once or a long time ago, where when they do sometimes have to go, that's not quite 40k enough. Can you add more skulls?
Put more skulls on it,
and do this and stuff like that. So I think they do. I think they must have to be a big bit of input from. Don't get me wrong. For all we know, PowerWash Simulator has got a lot of 40k fans who work there, which wouldn't surprise me.
No.
But so if we look at this for a second, it looks like you've gone heavy with that green, that sort of green streak and grime.
Well, because streak and grime is like a greeny browny sort of colour. I mean, it does annoy people that AK keep changing the recipe.
Yes, I've heard that.
But there's someone else. Oh, is it? I've pre-ordered them. For the life of me, I can't remember the name. There's Grimdark Compendium potentially.
Right.
YouTube channel. He's bringing out his own enamel washes, and one of them is kind of like similar to what streak and grime used to be, like that sort of greeny browny sort of tone, which is really, really interesting. But yeah, this is this is so ridiculous.
I like the fact that Adeptus Mechanicus have an entire department just dedicated to just giving stuff a wash.
Yeah. I mean, this is canon, obviously.
Do you think at the end of it though, like, because I occasionally go and get our 2 vans washed by somebody else instead of doing it myself. My main question is now, at the end of this, will they give this like a little dangling air freshener? Just to put on it like it would, like, it would when I go to my one.
The car wash I used to go to before I moved would give me like a heart one.
Oh, that's very sweet.
Yeah. Oh wait, that's was it? That's the millennial heart, and then that's like the Gen Z one. They do it with different fingers.
Oh,
that one's just like looks really painful.
Yeah, I was just going to think. I don't think my fingers would bend like that anymore now. Now that I'm early onset arthritis.
Yeah. But this sort of stuff I find really, really interesting. So 40k, obviously, the Amazon TV show is going to happen.
Yep.
Which will be massive for Warhammer. And I think there's such a market for it. Like, I rewatched the first season of the Halo TV series fairly recently.
Oh, yes, which I've not seen any of.
And season 2 is a lot better. But season 1 is interesting. Like, the Chief, rarely has his helmet on. And it is the same in season 2, to be fair. But they've tried to, here is like this power armored character who doesn't talk in the game.
Yeah.
Like, he does a little bit. Never takes his helmet off. You never see his face. You don't know sort of what he looks like or anything like that. But and we talked about this a little bit as well, like with the Amazon series, going like, oh, if they follow a Space Marine,
yes,
like they're gonna have to humanize them a bit more. And they've done that with Master Chief. They've gone like, oh, you've had a behavioral chip put in, so you don't really feel stuff. All you do is follow orders.
Yeah.
But he's taken it out. So now he's a bit more human. He's a bit more relatable. And I can completely understand why they've done that from a TV series perspective. It has to be Halo. It has to, you have to have Master Chief. But if he's a really boring character that doesn't have any, struggle, if he's just I'll go to point A and B and just kill Covenant, fine. That's really quite dull to watch. But then what they've done is kind of it's better in season 2 than it is in season 1. But I think a lot of fans felt like they'd kind of gone, oh, here's all this lore, and everything that's been built up over 20 years, 25 years, and then they just went, yeah,
yes,
new stuff. So there's such a market for a fan, something like a Warhammer series, but that is taken there's enough cool characters in Warhammer that I don't think you have to go. Marines are super cool and quirky now.
Excuse me, to apologise.
So, it's really good. This, I have zero interest in. I can't imagine myself playing it. It looks kind of fun.
It's amusing.
We know what chapter that.
We do now. Yeah,
that Dreadnought is.
I think I might have gone over. I meant to leave some of the streak and grime in the grooves and stuff. And I think I might have. I think I've used it.
You can always put more on.
Yeah, maybe that's true.
Just reactivates with white spirits.
I've just looked through the settings of different types of nozzles and all the rest of it, but there doesn't seem to be cotton wool, bud, and white spirits.
Terrible.
That's where it's failing.
Maybe try enamel thinner.
Yeah,
instead.
maybe that's
some good results with that.
Yeah.
And I think this is a perfect example of, if you don't like it, it's not designed for you. Like you said, your son got this.
Yeah, my youngest boy, who's 10, who's becoming he's a 40k fan, but only lore.
Yeah.
He doesn't. If I've said to him, "Do you want to play?" and he's like, "Not really."
Yeah.
Mainly because he said, "Oh, it looks a bit complicated." But my youngest boy's extremely bright. I think he'd cope, but he's not massively interested. But he's devouring, even though they can be quite violent. He's devouring because there's plenty of knocking around the house. He's finding and devouring the books like nobody's business.
Yeah.
So he's enjoying them, and he really likes the models, and he's interested in what everything looks like. So to go from cleaning some American house and a van and an SUV to being able to clean Dreadnoughts, Knights, Land Raiders, Google Dawn.
Pretty awesome.
It's ticking all of the boxes for him. So so he really likes it. It's not, would I sit and play this myself? No. I find it a likeable oddity.
Yeah.
But it does feel like 40k, especially because I think when you look at Old World and Age of Sigmar to some degree, they just seem to fit into the pre-existing tropes of fantasy. There's dwarves, there's orcs, there's
yeah.
Well, I know a lot of that still exists in 40k as well, but the gothicness and the weirdness of 40k seems to be sort of seeping out a little bit, and it does feel that unless there is really, like I say, some 40k fans at PowerWash Simulator HQ, that it's just feels like it's the beginning of the ball rolling, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think there's a couple of interesting things about this. Like 40k is it was on South. It was a South Park episode.
Yes.
It was last year, where the kids are just playing and they're like, "Oh, mum's away for the weekend. We can do whatever you want," and then they're just playing 40k, and the dad's just like, what?
And it's starting to see, and to be fair to him, I don't want to feel like I'm hijacking a concept from another content creator's show, but Squidmar did this a couple of weeks ago. He looked at wargaming turning up in things.
Oh, right, okay.
And and it was like in one of the houses they passed through in The Last of Us 2, there is a whole dusty wargaming table laid out.
Interesting.
And it's starting to feel like it's becoming more current.
And because there's a couple of things I guess worthy of note is there's something I've sort of heard and perhaps been more aware of the longer I've been in the hobby is Warhammer is maybe less quirky now. And is your Primaris Marines look more like your Master Chief kind of thing.
They do.
When you look at the old Rogue Trader and they have kill and this, that, and the other on them, whereas now they're sort of like, yes, brother, I'm stoic and I'll save humanity. There's that sort of element to it. As we said before we started recording, the Gene Stealers used to be, there isn't a word in the Gene Stealer language for consent, shall we say? Whereas now they're sort of they still don't know what that is, but they there's a little scar on the side of you and they implant you with stuff rather than do a business. So it seems like...
But they do still suggest that afterwards the human race starts to get really busy with it.
Yes. Yeah, but the initial hope, but that's all, you know, with their partners and consensual. That's all totally fine.
Yeah.
You know, Mr. John Soldier gets implanted and then goes back to his loving wife and says, let's make a gene stealer hybrid. And she's like, what?
The rest of the week off, Mrs. Soldier?
Yeah. Or, you know, we can still keep it grimdark. He then cheats on his wife with another implanted lady.
Yes.
And they make gene stealer babies.
Yes.
And it's horrific because he's destroyed the sanctity of marriage.
That's the main problem.
Yeah, horrific. But it's all consensual.
Imagine the early days of having to be the marriage counsellor who didn't realise there was a gene stealer cult at work on their planet. I was sort of going, and he just went off with this other woman.
That's a spin-off show, isn't it?
Yeah, and what led you to feel like
he always wears hats now.
Yeah, and what you felt led you to do that, John? I don't know. Just did. Do you love your wife? Yes. But I love the forearms. Oh, no. Yes, I love my wife.
So that's a show.
Yes,
that's another show.
Amazon got it so busy.
So is it? Yeah, I guess like there's elements like that they run the risk of like the Disneyfication of 40k.
Well, they did it a little while ago, didn't they? I talked about this because it was always something that has always been extraordinarily grim, and then they went back and changed it, didn't they? Was the fact that they used to be that the cherubs were all dead babies. And then they went, oh no, not anymore. Oh no, that's not the case. They're grown in a vat.
Yeah,
like Death Corps Krieg. They're they're grown for the job. Sort of thing. And you're like, that, and you think, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because like I've said before, how horrific would be if you were just walking the streets of terror and some priest walked by you having his cloak being held up by your dead child as on a set of wings would be awful. So I think there is sort of rounding of the edges, I think, a little bit in it going forward. And I think as well, like again, because you can't see it coming up in 40k TV, is like you go, where exactly do servitors come from? And they go, they're criminals. In some cases, if I remember rightly, and if I'm wrong, please do tell me. In some cases, I'm sure servitors used as well were sometimes space marines that had failed.
Oh, right, okay. Like the implantation
hadn't gone, and they went, stick some forklift truck arms on them and put them in a hangar. You know what I mean? So all of it's all a bit
so, I mentioned it before, like there's in one of the Warhammer crime novels, they go to a servitor factory.
Oh, that must be pleasant.
And because I think there's some servitors that are killing people, and they go to the factory where they're made, and it's like they're not insanely graphic with what they do, but they are enough that you can imagine what's going on.
Enough that you think you don't need to tell me any more than that.
I cringe just thinking about it. Like it's horrible.
And as well as there's no life for the for the astropaths, like in the first Eisenhorn novel. You've got that really, bless him, sweaty man who can't be any more than about 25. Who's just covered in plugs. You never see him outside of his cabin.
They all die really young.
And they all die really because they just burn them out. And Eisenhorn never talks about him with any fondness.
No, like everyone hates astropaths, and like they're a bunch of weaklings, and it's like you're like, if you're a psychic and you stub your toe and you go and you're like, and then a footnote at the end of the page of that Black Library novel, it's like, yes, Eisenhorn stubbed his toe and his psychic scream killed 17 astropaths. Like they're just so feeble. Like the way that they're written, like it's hilarious, the disdain that they have.
It's like, I used my microwave 23 hours a day, and then it eventually gave up the ghost, so I shot it and then swore at it and blamed it. You know what I mean? And you just think they really feel sorry for them,
like the Night Lords trilogy, I won't do the spoilers because it's in book 3, but some horrific things happen to astropaths. They are treated as like subhuman. But it's the skill that they have that everybody needs, but they're just like, I hate you.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? They're massively relied on, but no one likes them.
Yeah.
And no one trusts them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You think, so I think that, I think when they go forward, I think it'll be very impressive if they, because obviously, I know everyone's talking about a TV show that's a long way from being made, but some of these elements, you think, if you bring them in, you've really got your work cut out to make you make your heroes look like heroes when there's a whole sub element of humans that are just getting a really rough time for a really, really desirable skill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like people only put up with the navigators because of like, they're like, burn the mutant. Apart from them, they're useful.
Yeah, the one with 3 eyes, we need them.
because they can fly our ships and stuff. That's fine. So that's really interesting. So
it's like back in the day in this country, we don't want you in this country anymore since Brexit. Oh, hang on a minute, have you got a HGV licence? Do you remember that?
Yes.
It's a very similar sort of aid, isn't it?
Yeah. So like, oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, good at driving space trucks. Yeah, so I think this game is kind of like I would look at it almost as a gateway drug.
I think
for getting kids hooked into playing it and all that sort of stuff. And as much as it isn't for me, it does expand the universe and Warhammer, and it will bring more people into it. I think with the licensing stuff, the other question is, like, we had a game, like it's getting to a point now where there's so much licensed stuff that you kind of think, is it any good? Is it like relevant? And that kind of thing. So we brought out the Warhammer Monopoly.
We did, yes.
And
spoilers, one of us had a far better time with it than the other.
Yeah. And like, does that bring anything to Warhammer? I imagine it will bring them a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that's what's important. Does it improve the brand of 40k or does it cheapen it?
Well, I was saying this because after I played it, I was round at Bestie Tim's house, and Tim was.
If he's watching, does he watch?
I don't know. He's very sketchy on that. I think once a week on a Tuesday's enough for him. I don't think he needs to see me more than once a week
anymore. You already bought a smaller house to try and get rid of me.
I'm still not giving in. But he was like horrified, literally horrified, that they hadn't changed the houses and the hotels. He said, because I said, they're called outposts and fortifications instead of houses and hotels.
Yeah.
And he was like, so they like little forts. So I was like, no. He said, do you know the little green houses? And he went, yeah. I went, well, they're the little green houses. He was like, no. He was literally livid with regards to the idea that they hadn't changed them.
Yeah, so 40k Monopoly is, I keep pointing over there because that's where it is. Congratulations, audio only listeners. There is to my right, or camera left. It seems like a bit of a cash grab. Like I don't think it's no different to.
Well, and then there's 40k Risk.
Yeah,
but in 40k Risk's defense, all of the figures and the vehicles are correct.
Yeah,
so you can play Gene Stealers and Gene Stealer Cult, I should say, and they do have little trucks, which are actually really cute.
Oh, right.
So they, they've done a bit more with that, and they seem to have leaned into the lore a little bit better than Monopoly. It's a very thin 40k Monopoly is a very thin skin, isn't it? Over Monopoly.
Yeah.
So
you can't. Monopoly's such a legacy game. You can't reskin it. No, really. I mean, they have reskinned it. You can't change the mechanics.
Because they haven't gone go to jail. That could have been go to a Blackstone fortress, couldn't it? And it's like just leave. It's like it seems to be designed so people that don't understand the 40k universe can still play it and pretty much understand what's going on. What's a Blackstone fortress? No, just keep calling it jail.
Yeah,
and the fact that there's still free parking. For what? Your Land Raider? Your Rhino? What?
Special parking.
So it's a bit bizarre. And then you've got also as well, we don't see them quite as much as here in the UK, but GW give all the required bits over, don't they, for licensing for these weird little games that a lot of the time exist in things like Barnes and Noble.
Oh yes, yeah, but I think they have, like, say there was the Space Marine game that was released.
Yes.
Where you get like the one Marine figure
Who's going to be in the game. Yeah.
And then a load of NIDs.
Yeah.
And yeah, I haven't bought that one. I bought another one somewhere. It's hiding. It's the way you get like one Marine from each faction, comes on like
Yes.
a coloured sprue, so it's kind of like you don't have to paint them if you don't want to. They're more boxed games than that kind of thing.
And they seem to be designed to be played by the casual or non-40k player as well. Don't they?
And again, I guess that's...
I always get the impression they're bought by people who play 40k to then play with a mate in the hope of trying to coax them in.
Yeah.
Again, sort of gateway games.
Yeah, that's it. So I think, I guess that, you know, this and PowerWash Simulator 40k edition are very similar, because like board games are massive.
Yeah.
Like my partner and I, like, we play a lot of board games, and of a variety of different genres. Like, you know, you have your Exploding Kittens and a bunch of other things that I'm so terrible at thinking on the spot. Flux and, you know, easier ones. But then you have like Wingspan and this, that, and the other, where it's like, oh, I've got this bird, but because its wingspan is over this certain length, I get to put an extra egg on, and like, oh, it's this kind of habitat.
Are you making that up, or is that a real game?
No, it's totally real. Yeah. And don't even get me started on the European expansion. And then you have, like, because it's in the US.
There's going to be a 40k version of that with the main bird to try and go be a double-headed eagle.
Yeah. So those games, like, insanely popular. Loads of people pick them up and play them.
Yeah.
So if you can get Warhammer into that more like casual board gaming market, and then go, oh, that's actually really interesting. We picked up a Lord of the Rings game. It's like a book, and you fold it out, and you have some PVC plastic minis,
right?
For some of the main Fellowship characters that are in like every one, and it's kind of like a storybook, and it's like, oh, you have to get here before blah 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 blah. And the miniatures are crap. Like Aragorn's sword is way too short and bendy, but they're good enough. Like,
yes.
you look at it and you go, that's Gimli, that's Frodo, that's Merry and Pippin, that's Legolas. You know, they're not as detailed as like Workshop does, but they're still really, really popular. You've got like Zombicide.
Yeah.
With, God, that box is massive. That's full of zombies, and then a few heroes.
And the figures aren't bad for Zombicide.
No. But then I think GW, they'd never do something like that because they're multi-part plastic. You'd have all your sprues, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Becomes a bit of a problem, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I mean, they do coloured plastic.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if they managed to get into that market, I think that would be way more beneficial than cleaning off a Redemption Dreadnought.
And the funny thing is that when they do their own board games, they never seem to have that much faith in them themselves, do they? Like, Space Hulk does extraordinarily well for them, and then they bring it back every now and again.
Yeah.
And it's loved, and they won't keep it on a shelf.
Yeah.
They just do it as and when, and Curse City had its run, and...
Because Curse City the demand for that was utterly insane.
Yes.
And that is more of a all-in-one sort of board game experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, because I think that portion of the market potentially is bigger than playing full games for 40k.
Possibly.
If they had that would appeal to me more, I think, because I very much like the lore. I love building and painting.
Yeah.
And then the gaming element of it is out of the three prongs of Warhammer, I think gaming is my third one. And it's not to say that I don't like it.
Yeah, no, got it.
I like building and painting and hearing about body gloves more, which is bizarre, but there we go. So I think if they released like, here's a game, here's, you know, so like Blackstone Fortress or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
here's 10 unique miniatures, and this board game, I'd be all over that. Like,
yeah, and this is it, isn't it? Is the fact, like, you know, they ran Blackstone Fortress for a while, and I know you can still get the main game, still seems to be knocking about, but getting the expansions is extraordinarily difficult.
oh, okay.
And so you think, you know, it's not, they sort of release them and then don't really support them for very long, and
So it's not like their core business, is it?
no. And then, you know, it's just sort of, they get them out there and then sort of go, well, that was a thing, and now we're done now, you know, and it's, and, you know, and you think, I personally think they could pretty much keep Space Hulk on the shelf and keep going all the time, you know. And especially, you know, if they were to do Space Hulk again now and went, right, new size Terminators, all badged up as Blood Angels, it'd fly off the shelves. You know, because them Blood Angel Terminators from the last edition of it were massively sought after on eBay.
Oh yeah, I found them all. I think I could find them all apart from like one. And priced them all up, and they're so expensive. To buy like the set of I can't remember how many miniatures it is.
I don't know.
Around 10.
Might be as much as 10. And then you've got that librarian. You've got the dead Marine on the throne. And you've got a little robot that's in there. It's madness how much of it is, and then also as well, all the Gene Stealers are unique. They're not just the running forward Gene Stealers from the older editions of Space Hulk. They're like hanging from the ceiling, and some of them are coming off the ground, and you know, so it's a phenomenal set. But you think you could keep that on the shelf and it just keep going. But you know, they seem to like to just do these things in fits and starts. The other thing as well, which is a game that's really popular at the moment since its release late February, Helldivers 2.
So I've heard of this, but only sort of, you know, a little bit.
In the fact it's sort of like, it's the buzzing game around at the moment.
I see bits of it on TikTok, and I'm like, okay, fine.
Although it's not 40k, because, you know, you can say, oh, well, you know, you can't just go anything Future War is 40k. But you can see it seeping in. Again, you know, it's like, I think Helldivers 2 with regards to 40k is like maybe one step down from 40k with Rebel Moon. You know, you can see that these hints of it and feels of it, you know. The fact that the baddies are called Terminids.
I love that.
Do you think Games Workshop must have been sitting there going, it's extraordinarily close for a lawsuit, but it's just not quite close enough. And they look, especially when you play a lot of the time, you're on planets in the dark, or planets which have like a very big fog on them. So, you know, I think mainly designed that way because it's not a massively built game. You know, it's not like playing one of these, you know, really top level games. It's available. It doesn't have a campaign. You have to play it online in up to like groups of 4. So I think this, it's in the dark, it's foggy. It's the idea, so they're not having to do mountains way off in the distance, you know. So it keeps it quite localized. But when you look at it, some of the things in it, you just go, oh god, there's just real little hints, you know. It's got that very slightly Nazi sort of thing going on, you know, a lot of flags with wings on, and you know, that sort of, and then a lot of it comes up when you're loading up to go to planets and drop. It has lots of the war equivalent of those, you know, those posters that have people having officers, you know, they're like two dolphins jumping over the moon, and they have like some inspirational quotes on. It has them, but they're all military ones. So and they all feel quite 40k. And I do think it's starting to feel like it's just, as you said, it just feels like it's just seeping into the zeitgeist now. It's just becoming a little bit more of a thing. You know, it's just come to mind a while ago now. I can't remember which of the big 3 it was. I don't know if it was Sainsbury's, Asda or Tesco's. But it wasn't that long ago. They were doing 40k t-shirts.
Really?
Yeah, with Space Marines on,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I can't remember which one of the big 3 it was. But so it feels like because they haven't gone, oh, we've had so many people come into the shop who are 40k players demanding t-shirts.
Yeah.
That's somebody somewhere in an office is starting to go, that thing with them big chunky soldiers thing seems to be taking off a little bit.
They were on stamps recently.
Yeah.
And my youngest likes cleaning them on PS5. Yeah.
When you put them on a t-shirt from your husband.
Yeah, that's it. And so that is a very interesting point, because it's like, as much as like me saying, like, I think this would be better, that's thinking about it from a very me-centric point of view. I think like casual board games and making it accessible that way. But then also, for someone else, like my mum was like, oh yeah, I saw that Games Workshop were on stamps and they've been going for 40 years and this, that and the other. And it's like, oh yeah, cool. Like people are sort of outside of the hobby taking note. And so that maybe that's the long game is you're on a stamp, you get cleaned up, and then you can sell your t-shirts in a supermarket. Because if Asda picked up Warhammer t-shirts like off Tesco, I think that, pardon me, they're the biggest, aren't they? So if they picked up Warhammer t-shirts, like how many they would buy is like the volume of like the scale of it is so much bigger than say just selling a few in Warhammer World. Because
even 5 years
on the
ago,
merch website,
even 5 years ago, you wouldn't have forecast 40k t-shirts being in a supermarket.
No,
you just wouldn't.
No,
and the fact that, and like other ones, like I was having I don't know, they're not nationwide, but the brand Wilco's, which is like a household shop for those that not everyone knows them, because I know they're obviously unique to Britain, and they're not even unique across all of the British Isles. They're sort of regional, and they're like a household store. Well, the biggest one nearest me is in a town called Arnold. Big up the Arnold Massive for anyone that's listening who's from there. And their one shut down, and it's reopened as a B&M.
Oh, right, okay.
And B&M is one of the stores, of all the weird places to have it, that sells McFarlane 40k.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, because I was in there the other day, and they had a black Raven Guard, obviously black, but a Raven Guard assault marine.
Yeah.
And they, and the amount of people I've seen on Facebook going, found this, and especially that what was that, is it Dark Tide? There was like people going, I found the Dark Tide cultist traitor guard in B&M, and
just next to the half price pans.
Like, what I mean? So it's so it's weird that these places that get these licenses, and then someone somewhere must go in an office somewhere going, how big is the visibility on these to sell them?
Yeah, that's it.
Because every single bit of shelf space is money, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all to do with money and how much they'll sell. Yeah, definitely. Or like the stock was, crazy cheap or something like that. But it's really, really interesting. So it would be like, right, where we were 5 years ago, where we were. It sounded like I'm a football supporter. Where we were 5 years ago. Yeah, we always try and walk it in. Is a ludicrous display. Like 5 years ago, you were like, right, where's the hobby going to be? But I think, the interesting thing is like, right, how, like, trying to predict how far along the curve of popularity like Warhammer is. Like, where could it end up? Like, the Amazon show is going to be massive.
And bearing in mind, a lot of this beginnings of this curve is before the Amazon show was really sort of put properly into when the t-shirts were in the shops, which was probably about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, I don't know how long ago it was now, but you go, I don't think you ever said yes to them, went, well, we've heard whispers, because if they'd heard whispers, they'd go, yes, we will, but can we hold off on them till such point in time as the show lands? That's someone just going, well, there's enough of this, and I think it's really interesting to think that's someone was going, well, this is important enough that, or it's big enough that it's worth spending the money having these printed onto t-shirts.
Maybe it's just everywhere in Nottingham.
Maybe it is. Maybe, yeah. Maybe.
Because we are at the epicenter
of it, yeah,
of
absolutely.
the miniature universe. So every shop sells Warhammer something.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah.
It will be interesting to see if the TV show does well, how much it affects.
Yes.
Because I don't feel like I've seen a sudden upturn in things for the Rings of Power. I wasn't suddenly felt like there was Rings of Power toys everywhere.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point.
You know.
I guess that's a tricky one because Lord of the Rings already had its trilogy and it was already perfect.
Yeah.
So nothing else was gonna be as good. And then the TV show, although incredibly high budget and what have you, it wasn't insanely well received, was it? But it's already on a very established IP.
Yeah.
You've had Lord of the Rings, you've had The Hobbit, and then here come Amazon being like, oh, we're gonna do this thing, and it's like, does that story need to be told? Like, everybody knows ish,
Yeah.
kind of roughly what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I guess you had the whole who's Sauron, that kind of question or what have you, but the rings get made, there's some deceiving involved, and
Yeah.
there's a load of cool things to happen along the way. If it's a great show, I mean, crikey, the Dune films, if people have read the books, they know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But the films are still amazing.
Yeah.
So there we go. I proved myself wrong. I don't know what my point was. Maybe Rings of Power just wasn't
But yeah, like you're saying though, it didn't feel like there was. It didn't feel like there was enough confidence in. I didn't suddenly, because I potter in and out now and then. It wasn't like when the Rings of Power was made then that suddenly though, Forbidden Planet was full of Rings of Power action figures.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? It didn't feel like they didn't seem to preempt it being successful with a load of merch. The merch for it didn't seem to be hugely anything of any major interest. So it felt a little bit like nobody really wants to have a major punt on it before it sort of landed anyway, And I think it's and it feels now like that. It feels now like that thing's just sort of, especially with streaming, but I think 40K is immune to this. Things just get made now and go out and pass some people entirely by. Like the other day, I wasn't aware it was even a thing, but there is a TV series starting in the next few days on Netflix, which is being made by the two guys who are behind Game of Thrones.
Oh right.
Called The Three Body Problem. It's based on a Chinese science fiction novel series.
Yeah.
TV first series is 8 episodes. $200 million budget.
Oh wow!
Which is
crazy money. That's
movie
blockbuster money.
Yeah, you know what I mean. And you're going, didn't even know it was a thing. I read about it accidentally.
Oh right, yeah. I didn't even know that was a thing.
And you go $200 million, and you go, why isn't that on billboards on the side of buses and you know what I mean, and all the rest of it? And it's an alien invasion show.
Oh, okay.
So where's me alien from the Three Body Problem in a blister on a piece of card in Forbidden Planet? You know what I mean? It seems to be.
I mean, maybe for Netflix, they're just not that fussed about it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I'm hoping that 40K will be the one that can straddle, because it's so established already.
Yeah.
And there's a wealth of toys in a number of different sizes already available.
Because the merchandise is already there.
Yes. Yes. It's not like the only thing could be is more merchandise.
Yes.
It's not like you're going to get less merchandise.
I just hope that, unlike, say, Warhammer Plus, when, they had the Angels of Death and you had your Blood Angel, squad of Marines.
Yes.
It would be, I would have absolutely bought a box of those Marines.
Yeah, of course.
But then I guess the issue is, they were firstborn, I think, not Primaris, and this, that, and the other, and you can kit bash them, and someone did at the time for a battle report that we did, but it's kind of that tying in of stuff I think would be really important. If you can't buy a miniature of Henry Cavill's character, come on, Workshop, sort your shit out. That needs to happen, absolutely.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. This is the bit I'm really looking forward to, is especially obviously selfishly because you've got a YouTube channel, but it's just how much of an impact it has for all the pre-existing things.
It'll be really, really interesting. Yeah,
because I would imagine, especially because they very cleverly got involved in it early on. If you think about the early days of the Marvel movies, when it wasn't Marvel, it was Spider-Man being Sony, which it still is, to some degree, and then 20th Century Fox was X-Men. Yeah. But then to gain new readers, Marvel did Ultimate Marvel Universe, where they scratch built the entire universe for Spider-Man and the entire universe for the X-Men, and then very quickly after that followed it with the Avengers from scratch, and made some of the powers and how it happens more palatable and more realistic.
Oh, okay.
And like, there is, even before the Iron Man movie came out, there was a joke in they were in Ultimate, they were called the Ultimates, but they were basically the Avengers, which was a brilliant bit of foreshadowing, is they decided to redesign Nick Fury from being white guy with grey in temples
to a black guy with an eye patch and stuff.
Yes, and shaved head, and made him look like Samuel L. Jackson. Right? And there's a whole bit where the Ultimates are all sitting around and going, who would play, if they made a movie out of us, who would play? And someone goes to Cap, Brad Pitt would play you. And Cap, being not long, woke up, goes, who's Brad Pitt?
Right.
And then someone goes, who would play you? To Nick Fury. And Nick Fury goes, well, there is only one badass mother lover on the planet that could play me, and that would be Mr. Samuel L. Jackson. And like 18 months down the line, there he is at the end of Iron Man, And you think, but they designed it to, what I was getting at was basically they designed this to bring people who'd gone to the cinema, do you know, I love Spider-Man enough, I might take up reading it, or I haven't read Spider-Man for 20 years, 30 years, however long. And then he went, here it is again from scratch, but makes a bit more sense in our world.
Okay.
And you're not reasoning it with 30 years of baggage to know you're reading it from scratch.
That'll be very, I wonder if they, in the Amazon show, if they do like a slightly altered timeline of things.
Be interesting.
And then it pisses off a load of people.
Well, this is the thing.
The gatekeeping is going to be crazy.
Well, this is the in Henry we trust element that we have to really rely on.
Yeah.
I just think that if they set it like sort of like as all of the current belief is from Eisenhorn. Imagine if they start with like a Star Wars crawl. The crawl will be about 30 minutes long, won't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or they should do it the other way. Like, did you watch much of the Clone Wars?
Yeah.
You know the way it starts with like the news reporter from the 1940s.
Yeah.
War, and then it just goes.
Yeah.
You know, I think maybe go a bit like that. I don't know. We're just telling like a little brief snippet of what's going on in this particular area.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think, as I've always said, I think you could almost read Eisenhorn from scratch without knowing the 40k universe, and especially if you're a very, very well-read science fiction reader whose ability to take on unusual concepts is high.
Yeah,
you could probably go. I could read. I always say the only thing you really need for 40 to read Eisenhorn is a website with photographs of all of the things that get mentioned.
Yeah, I think Infinite and the Divine, you could do that as well.
Yeah.
Because that's like just a standalone, really great sci-fi novel.
Yeah. And I think so. That's what makes me think Eisenhorn as well, especially because it's one of the ones where you're not having to do absolutely enormous mass battle. You can just go, there's some Space Marines in it late on.
Yeah.
There's some weird aliens late on, and some cultists and one or two, I can't remember, not many Chaos Marines. And you can just sort of tell that story, but you're not having to go, we need shed loads of Marines. You're not having to go, we've got to put a Titan in it. We need to start designing, rhinos. I think you can keep the CGI budget, but I'm basically getting that relatively low in places, I think.
Yeah.
Because I think... It's a bit Sherlock Holmes, isn't it? A lot of
yeah, yeah. I think it'd be really, really good. I don't know if, like, because they put out the logo, didn't they, of like the Aquila, and half of it's like knackered, and then the other half's like gleaming and golden.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be more about the Imperium as a whole and the factions inside of it all trying to figure it out.
The brave thing would be to just do nothing we've seen.
Yeah.
To just go, all right, you're going to have to, when I say nothing we've seen, it's going to have to be from a human point of view, because we're doing the first series and it's about orcs, people just wouldn't buy that. No. So it's going to have to be from a human point of view. But you might just go, right, we're just going to do it about this squad of guys in an Imperial Guard regiment, and it's not Gaunt's Ghosts, or we're going to do this, or we're going to do that. Yeah. I feel though we'll possibly go.
I think it's got the legs to have like a massive cinematic universe.
Yeah.
Like movies and TV shows and this, that, and the other. And I think like with the advent of streaming, you can take a punt on that kind of stuff a bit more, because like superhero fatigue at the minute. I haven't watched a Marvel film in the cinema since like the Avengers, I don't think.
So I think the last one I went to cinemas to see, not too long ago, Guardians 3 was the last I think I went to see in the cinema. Yeah. And that was a family outing. Me and the wife didn't go, because, we used to do the thing where we would go and watch the Marvel movies as a couple, and then when the kids were a bit younger, make a decision on the level of violence, and then decide whether they were all right going to see it, Yeah. I remember, the kids didn't go to the cinema to see...
Deadpool.
Yeah, Deadpool. They didn't go to the cinema to see the second Captain America.
Oh, right, okay.
Which is one of my favourite Marvel movies.
I think that's my favourite Marvel film.
It's a great film.
Yeah.
But,
Winter Soldier.
Yeah, Winter Soldier, thank you. Yeah, they didn't go to cinema to see that. But then they as they got older, they did go to see others. But, so, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how, to go back to the original point, how much of a push on licensing this all has.
Yeah, I think like the show would obviously be a massive one, and again, like they'll license stuff that personally I will go, why on earth have they done that? Like Warhammer Monopoly doesn't need, like, the world is not a better place for that existing.
No,
I don't think.
I'd argue slightly worse place for it existing.
Yeah, like I don't think 40
what have 40k Monopoly and Curtains got in common? They both make the world a slightly darker place.
And we should probably end there. We're never going to top that. Yeah, but there'll be games, there'll be toys, like scented candles. Crikey, we talked about them on the first ever show.
Yes. And what a ridiculous concept they were.
Yeah, what a bizarre... But they're still selling them. They still make them, so they must sell.
They keep making new versions of them.
Do they?
They keep adding to them, don't they?
Nurgle's Rot, it's delicious. Yeah, edible candles. What a wonderful. Well, yeah, it is really, really interesting as a concept, as a company. People obviously want to buy into it, or they are licensing things out. How much of that is, they might have targets to meet.
Well, you think they're taking the nonsense of Clean and Dreadnoughts aside.
Yeah,
their video game industry is massive, isn't it?
Yeah,
and
and I mean, there's potentially some issues. I mean, because Space Marine got delayed a year.
Yeah, which was a real shame.
Like I saw a headline recently. I don't know the specifics of it, but
there we go.
The parent company of the studio is like selling the studio or looking to, or something along those lines. So I'm like, I hope Space Marine's safe. Like I feel like video games are like that would improve the 40k universe. You can.
Bolt Gun did quite well, didn't it? A lot of people quite like Bolt Gun.
Yeah.
And I think Dark Tides was quite successful.
Yeah. There we go. Close up dog cam.
Oh, there she is.
So, even though I don't know if I'm going to talk, we'll just keep the camera on the dog. Yeah. So it will be very, very interesting. Like, how long until you get a Space Marine lunchbox? I mean, it probably exists already.
Yeah, probably.
And like a thermos.
Probably downstairs on that floor when you first walk into Warhammer World. If you punch them.
Yeah.
Right next door to your 40k dressing gowns.
Yeah. But
you're tired.
It might be interesting. Like, if the TV show comes out and it is true to 40k.
Yeah.
And you see some Space Marines do some like messed up stuff. Would parents like want little Timmy to be wearing a t-shirt with a Space Marine, and you just like, oh, I just saw like him or someone that looks like him. I think it was a Space Marine, but it had like horns on it and stuff, and like, you know, he like disemboweled someone. Like, I wonder if we'll get to a stage where there'll be, you know, a 12 certificate series, but also a 15 or an 18.
Well, you know, the interesting thing as well potentially might be where there is the crossing of the streams between Warhammer Plus and Amazon. It's the fact that Amazon seem to be reasonably keen, and Netflix are as well, reasonably keen on relatively grown-up animation.
Yes.
Because you've got Invincibles from... which is from the same stable as The Boys, really, to some degree.
So like Blue-Eyed Samurai on Netflix.
And then you've had...
quite violent. Yeah.
And then at least one of the Garth, because I think Garth Ennis signed a deal with Netflix, didn't he? And I think it's Super Crooks, I think, was went out as an animation, which had been like a small run comic of his.
Yeah.
So I think the idea of maybe like some, and as has been shown for Disney, the what ifs do really well.
Oh right, okay, yeah.
You know, so you could. I wouldn't be surprised if you had like, you know, Tales from the 40k universe, a little bit in the same way that
like Hammer and Bolter.
Yeah,
and
made their way over
for Hammer and Bolter Sins, i.e., it's barely ever released. Like, there'll be a shock horror. Warhammer Plus is still terrible. Like, yeah, Hammer and Bolter. I think that was like some of the animation in the first few episodes was a bit,
yeah,
and then as they had a bit more time, like they really did improve. And they had some really cool stories, and that was like a good insight into that kind of stuff. I think that's like a good use
if they did
like the IP.
Yeah, if they did a different animation every week from like a 10-part thing, like a bit like what if, where every story is different. You know, you could quite happily watch an episode just about an Imperial assassin, wouldn't you? Going about their on a mission and things like that. You know, that sort of stuff. You know, where no one in it is a major character.
Yeah.
Just more, you know, the background characters and give them their own episodes. It'd be quite cool, and you know, and God, you know, you could do one about a bloomin' Adeptus Mechanicus accidentally switching on AI robots that have been in the bar, and then it being hunted through, you know, the Black Library or something by something he's accidentally woke up. You know, them sorts of things would be quite cool, because the great thing about them is that they're cool little individual stories, but they're also a way of going, here's what the Adeptus Mechanicus is, and here's what the assassins are, and then it just keeps rounding it out and building more layers to it all, doesn't it? So when eventually, you know, you're, you know, potentially a movie or a series in, and then a Vindica assassin turns up with his 9-foot-long rifle, and you go, oh, one of them was in the cartoon. You know what I mean? You know what they are. Yeah. So, you know, be quite, you know, I hope it works, because I think...
I mean, there's insane developments in AI. OpenAI demoed something like a little while ago now, I think, or a few months. Was it Sora? And... it's you much like ChatGPT, but for video, you type in, make me a movie trailer for this, that, and the other. Like, there was an AI Warhammer movie trailer that came out recently that's got like millions of views. Yeah. Because it just captures that aesthetic of it. And there's lots of debates with, like, yes, it's AI, but the inspiration it's used is human made. So it's like global, massive amounts of plagiarism and all that sort of stuff, but it's like, you go, make me a movie trailer shot on 35mm in the style of Wes Anderson or
I've watched a couple of them Wes Anderson
for animation
ones,
will be that for animation will be like completely game changing in that, you know, you could have you know, you type in characters and this, that, and the other, and it'll just be so vastly different in how quick you'd be able to get all these things out.
It'd be interesting to see, you know, how much they lean into that side of things. But like you say, the AI now is ridiculous, because I've watched those two I've watched the Wes Anderson remake of Star Wars trailer, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And the one for them doing Wes Anderson doing Lord of the Rings as well.
Oh right, yeah.
And and the thing is that because they're so heavy he has such a unique style.
Yeah.
I think AI didn't struggle too much with them because you go pastel colours.
Yeah.
People stand at a certain distance away from camera, which is a very Wes Anderson thing.
Yeah.
Every one of them in the trailer has had like, what we need is this, and you go, which is obviously the Captain Fantastic Mr. Fox thing of like putting a plan together and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think but if you said to AI, make me a trailer for a film and in the style of Steven Spielberg, I think it'd really struggle because he doesn't have a style. Every movie Spielberg makes is quite unique to the other,
Yeah.
So I think, but it'd be interesting to see if they can, how much of AI will be leaned into by the time they get to putting the effects together for 40K.
Yeah.
Quite cool because
it'd be very interesting. Yeah. There we go. I'm not sure how long we've been going on at the minute. But yeah, there was very briefly, I guess we can touch on new releases on Warhammer Day.
Oh yes, let's do that. Yes,
there was a Mech Orc, which I thought looked pretty cool.
Mech Orc. Do you think the Mech Orc looked a little bit like it had borrowed a suit off Tom Cruise from The Edge of Tomorrow?
Oh yes, yeah.
It looked like stepped as this big rig. His legs have been got into like the boots for it and all the rest of it.
Yeah,
I thought that orc was really cool, and I thought the closed, not shouting mouth, I thought was very Games Workshop for an orc because he looked really deadly serious. There was no comedy to it.
Yes, and because he has quite a pointy chin as well. Yeah. So I think he looks like a bit more like an Uruk.
Yeah,
like from Sigmar. Like there's a version of it where you can put the metal jaw on.
Yes,
and that looks more 40K.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah,
definitely. But the
other one just looks quietly sinister, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Which is not very orc.
He looks pretty cool with all the bolts and stuff coming out of his mouth. But I thought that was quite an interesting.
I think it's a lovely miniature. It's very
miniature.
busy.
There's loads going on.
But in that way, that orcs, you go, if I can fit a gun on here, I can fit 5 on. So let's just go with that, and I like that. Yeah. That childlike simplicity of going, if I can carry this and I'm strong enough to carry that, let's carry the one that's 9 foot long instead of that.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like the lean. I think it's a really nice miniature. But then...
Our short king.
Oh, what's going on there?
So this...
I'm hoping it's a matter of perspective.
Yeah, so we have a standalone Shield Captain miniature, and this was... shown in silhouette at the start of the year in a video, wasn't it? And at the start of the spin, like with that sort of, I don't know what the proper term is.
No, I
sort
don't
of
know.
Plume thing that comes up at the top. My immediate thought was, it's a reposed Votan miniature. But then as it turns around, you see the Guardian Spear, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. But I think hopefully. It's like his shoulders are super wide, his legs seem pretty short. Maybe it's because he stood on a tactical rock or something along those lines. It looks better with a helmet on, I think. It just looks a bit weird, just a bit. He looks very squat. If you took
that miniature and laid it on its side, I think it'd still be the same height.
yeah, it's very square. Yeah,
he seems to be literally as wide as he is tall.
Yeah,
it's a very odd thing. I wonder whether the problem... I know all of the Custodies look a little bit squat because their armour's very wide. Yeah,
because someone on Instagram, I think it might have been Maverick's Paints, and he put a poll on one of his stories was just like, should Custodies have Primaris proportions? And so many, the vast majority of people have said yes. I've never really looked at the Custodies and gone they look really squat. I think the Wardens, with the robes and stuff, look amazing. I think I look at Trajan Valoris.
Well, you obviously like them, otherwise you'd have never picked them as an army.
Yeah, and the characters and stuff. Trajan Valoris. You look at him and you're like, yeah, he looks like the boss. He looks really cool. Whereas this one, I don't know, just looks. just like
Just looks off, doesn't it?
yeah, it just looks a little bit off.
But I've said this before, and I'll probably say it again in the future about miniatures where I've gone, oh, I'm not sure, and then you see them in the flesh and you go, oh, actually, they're all right.
Yes, and I think that might potentially be it in the like, you know, when you see him on the cover of the box, the Auric Champions box, he looks, you know, a bit more in place, to be fair. But I think the Wardens look so much better. I think the shield is a bit weird that they've given him. Like it's not really doing it for me quite as much. Like, you know, it definitely has that sort of Roman, that Roman vibe. But maybe it's leveled up that little bit more. Like, I definitely would not buy that box to get that miniature.
Yeah, good old Games Workshop. You want this? Guess where it is.
Yeah.
I'll give you the clue. It's 3 figures away.
Because I've already got all of those miniatures anyway, and building those bikes. I think I've built like 6 of them, and I never want to build another one again.
And they've done the same with the Orc as well, haven't they? They've put him in a box as well.
Yeah.
But then
because that fit, like, you know, that's a Custodes army.
Yes.
That's
a big Custodes army, probably.
Probably 2,000 points. Whereas the Orc, I feel like with the Orcs, like, you'd be like, get some more boys.
So they've announced an Orc Codex then is on its way, haven't they?
Yeah, so Orc Codex and the Custodes Codex as well
are on their way.
Yeah, because they give you a stomper in the Orc box.
Yeah, which I often get the impression from what I understand of a lot of people who play Orcs, it's not something they take.
No.
I wonder whether it's just like, God, we've got loads of these in the warehouse, stick them in a box.
That could be it. Yeah, that absolutely could be it.
I always said terrible. I always look at the West, and I do wonder though sometimes. I go, yeah, there's loads of these, and no one buys them.
Yeah,
stick them in there, and hopefully that new miniature will be enough to convince a sale.
Yeah. And then we have our Darko Savages, which look great.
Yeah,
I always think like the Sigmar miniatures, they knock it out the park.
Every time at the moment, isn't it?
It did make me giggle in the trailer. They had to put in the clips from the Hammer and Bolter episode that was on Warhammer Plus, because they were like, look, it still exists.
Yeah.
So I think they look great. Again, like the Sigmar miniatures, I think are always
you know what, they've
really,
been pretty
cool.
much on it for a good couple of years now, haven't they? Sigmar, it's always been whatever they brought out has been really, really cool.
Yeah. Oh, and then we've got gnomes in Blood Bowl as well. I haven't looked at these yet, but those look hilarious. Oh, you were talking about the goose.
Yes, there we go.
Yeah. In a previous episode. And the badger. And this.
Oh, the badger, is it the really angry looking badger?
Yes. Yeah.
It's great miniature, that.
Yeah, that looks amazing. And you got the foxes. There's a fox with a ball in its mouth. Like, I mean, these are and I mean they're like, how can you look at this? And
it's like the most British miniature range ever had, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's so funny looking at these, and you're like, is this the same company that makes them like space soldiers? It's so
twee.
Yeah,
in a beautiful way.
Yes,
and to be fair as well, whoever's painted them's done a wonderful job with them. They're really nice.
Yeah, they're exceptional, aren't they?
They're painted in a sympathetic to the miniatures. They're not massively over the top. They're nice and soft colours that sort of suit the countryside.
Yeah.
It's nice and put together.
Like the bright green grass on the bases and all that sort of stuff. Like, those foxes are amazing. I think they're such fun. Like that, to me, like I would expect to find a miniature like that if I was, some one-man band seller at a convention has said, like, oh yeah, I make these little gnomes and geese and badgers and foxes.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, they're so cute, I will buy some.
Yes. But to be done by
to be done
by the overlords.
Yeah, to be done by Workshop is like that's quite surprising. Like, that's a throwback to like old Workshop, I guess it seems.
I would say so. I think that poor Custodes captain he's going to be meme bound for a long time, isn't he?
Probably. Maybe nowhere near as much as Desolation
Squad
Marines,
yeah.
or Stilty Boy.
Oh God, yeah.
But
your man will be in trying to fix him soon, won't he?
oh,
Chap.
Pete.
No, yeah, Pete. No, you know the chap. I can't remember his name. Sadly, they know the guy who does the conversions, but does it through Photoshop.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. I do apologise if you're watching.
Yeah.
Well, he'll be in there soon, giving him about 2 more inches of thigh.
Yeah,
Slightly bringing the shoulders in.
Yeah. So I mean, that's I guess like prime for kit bashing. I want to see it. I'd like to see it in person. I think on its own, the picture isn't doing it any favours.
No.
Which is a shame.
Your friend of mine, Kilioth, wasn't particularly impressed.
Yeah.
You sort of feel like I've seen one of the best miniatures of the last year and one of the worst of the last year all in one weekend.
Yeah. It's a very good point. And as well with these releases, I always think like, oh, it's this special anniversary day thing, and I always assume that this miniature release will be massive, and
it's always a little bit underwhelming.
Yeah, like the Deathwing release, I really liked.
Yeah,
and I guess I always go in wanting to really like it.
So our next one then will probably be. I think is the miniature releases again for Adepticon. I think they do releases for Adepticon, don't they? I think.
Yeah.
So, we might be there for that. See it as it happens, but
I think
yes,
you have to get tickets for it.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
But so the next one will probably be only about a month away. You never know, that might be the one Deathcore of Krieg get a mention, because it's increasingly looking more and more like Deathcore of Krieg are getting a full range.
Oh,
now.
right, okay.
So
I think I mean it's rumoured. I think I saw Valrax say that Blood Angels are getting their
they're getting their.
They're going to get some specific Terminators.
Yeah, I would imagine they might get specific Terminators. They'll definitely get they'll get the Sanguinian Guards, and then they'll probably get an upgrade sprue, and they'll get all of the bits that are unique to them.
Get the Dark Angels treatment, because I mean they got
Templar treatment.
Yeah, they got the Knights. Which is cool. So I can expect that, it'd
be nice to see if they do something for the Terminators, but generally Blood Angel Terminators are a bit like everybody else just having Terminators. It's really more down to the Dark Angels who have that more unique thing going on with them,
fair.
Sadly, because I'd like not robed, but I'd like tabard level Black Templar Terminators.
Yeah.
But anyway, one can dream. So, have we anything else?
I think that's everything for this week. Yeah.
Right then, I'm going to go back to cleaning the crotch on this Redemptor Dreadnought.
Oh yeah, get right in
the grooves. Bye-bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye.